What's up, superhumans? BT here. Before we dive into this video, I must apologize if I look and sound a little more like death than I normally do. That's because I am sick. Anyway, I just got back from CES. If you don't know what CES is, basically it's the world's biggest electronics convention. It stands for the Consumer Electronics Show. It's held in Las Vegas, Nevada. I was lucky enough to get an invite from a friend who got an invite from Insta360. So thank you, David Manning. Thank you, Insta360, for having me. Historically, one of the largest draws for CES has been the automotive industry. And so I thought it was fitting that since I was attending CES, that I should take my new Tesla Model 3, and since I have full self-driving, that I should essentially make that entire road trip using full self-driving. Tesla's full self-driving is honestly an incredible feat of automotive engineering. However, it's also completely misunderstood. And so before we dive into those real world scenarios and the real world examples of me driving, I thought I should clear up some of those misconceptions. Tell you what exactly full self-driving is, but more importantly, what it's not. So we're gonna click on full self-driving. Now here's the important bit. You see so many people, especially in the news, we had a giant recall about full self-driving, and the media and other people really made it out to be that Teslas were just driving and wrecking. If you read the auto steer and full self-driving beta warnings that come up every time you engage it, this is what it says. Auto steer is a driver assistance feature and does not make your vehicle autonomous. That means you can't just get in the passenger seat or stay here and take a nap or just, type on your computer. You actually have to stay attentive. I'm going to select yes. Full self-driving is in early limited access beta and must be used with additional caution. It may do the wrong thing at the worst time. So you must always keep your hands on the wheel and pay extra attention to the road. Do not become complacent. You see, Tesla isn't saying, hey, we'll take over and we'll do all the work. It's very much, in no uncertain terms, saying you have to stay very attentive. This steering wheel, it actually has sensors in the steering wheel. It knows if you are applying pressure during turns or anything like that. It can sense if you're there or not. And after the update, honestly, and we'll get into this later, it's kind of annoying how much it tells you to stay attention, to pay attention, and to stay aware. There is a camera up in the cabin, and that camera is paying attention to you to see if you are attentive. It took me a while to realize this, but if you turn on autopilot and you're looking around, it will give you a bright notification and it'll be like, hey, you got to pay attention. And we'll get into what happens if you're not in a little bit. All right, now that you know what it is, what it isn't, hopefully we've cleared up some of those misconceptions. Let's hop into the real world examples of me driving down to Vegas using the highway and downtown traffic to see how it performs. And then I'll pop in every once in a while to give you updates because there is some stuff that I learned when I wasn't filming and I kind of want to chime in with those bits. Okay, so let's see if we can engage this and see if it knows where to take me. So I think it's just one stock press and it's going. It's already doing it by its own. Yeah, where are you taking me? So please pay attention to the road. It is doing everything for me. It's foot on the gas. I don't know. It saw this car cutting out in front of me. It's slowing down. That was actually kind of violent. So when I did this the first time, it did not feel smooth. I have no idea where it's taking me right now. So I'm gonna put my foot on the brake, disengage. It says, what happened? I am going to flip this around and see if we can do this again. For some reason, it wasn't navigating me to Las Vegas. Let's pause that. All right, so a few things. I didn't know that you could change the aggressiveness or the assertiveness of autopilot, but in the menu you can. And so when I changed it from standard to chill, it smoothed up the ride quite a bit. Also, you can tell Tesla after you disengage autopilot what happened. And even though I don't have proof of this, some of those voice memos that I left about it being too jerky, I feel like actually worked, because throughout the trip, before I changed it to chill or smooth or whatever, it actually smoothened up. Item number 2 was me talking about the car not going where it was supposed to be going. It actually was, but because it can't make U-turns, it was going the long way. And I wanted to flip a U-turn and get right back on the highway immediately. All right, just had to clear those things up. Back to the video. One thing it just notified me of is it said, put a slight turning force on the steering wheel. And I think that's to let the car know that you still are here. Like you still exist. And that it shouldn't just shut off on you. Okay, check this out. It's turning lanes for me for a faster lane. It sees that I'm gonna end up in the backside of this diesel, and it turned on the turn signal and it shifted lanes for me. I didn't do any of that. That's incredible. Holy. Apply slight turning force to the wheel. Again, just to let it know that you're still here, you're not unconscious. Wow, that is so cool. Every once in a while, it'll ask me to put a little force on the steering wheel to know that I'm not, asleep. But this is impressive. I'm gonna say impressive. I do like how easy it is to adjust your speed. Like I wanted to go a little bit faster, that car exited. This truck behind me is looking a little angsty. The cones are ending. All right, so a few things. One, you can easily adjust the speed you're going using the thumb wheel on the right-hand side of the steering wheel. And two, if you want to switch lanes faster, you don't have to let the car do it. You can just turn on a turn signal and the car will move over. Let's back up to 75. Let's see what happens. So now I'm approaching this thing. Okay, finally it's moving over and it's speeding me up to overtake. That is really cool. So in that regard, it did a lot of the same things that I would have done. It kept the same speeds that I would have kept. The point at which I would have accelerated to overtake, it did the same thing. That felt quite human. Whereas most of the interactions that I've had have been so stark and jarring that it didn't have a human touch. This has. I really like that. So far, so good. All right, 87 miles. I can't do full self-driving anymore. I don't know why. It kept telling me to put my hands on the wheel. I did. I gave it input, and eventually it just freaked out. It was like, you can't use it anymore on this trip. So I bet that means I can't use it today. I will try and use it tomorrow because I'm gonna be here for 3 days and we'll see what happens. Okay, so what is this nonsense with strikes? You're given 5 strikes for full self-driving. Essentially, Tesla is saying, hey, you're not being attentive. And so we're gonna turn this off. And once it does, your autopilot abilities go away until you end that trip. So if you do click end the trip and you go and you park the car and then you turn the car back on again, you'll be able to use it. However, I used 3 strikes on that trip. I got 3 strikes on that trip and I'm like, holy crap, I only have 2 strikes left. And I'm like, does that mean it's permanently gone? So I hit up a Tesla rep and I asked them, what does this mean? And they told me, well, as soon as you put it in park, you can drive again. I'm like, yeah, I get that. But there are people on Reddit saying that they've been blacklisted after they went through all 5 and they weren't able to use that feature for 80 days. And they were like, ugh, I don't really know. So with a little digging, I found in the release notes of the software that you can see on the screen, it says essentially, once the suspension has happened, you'll receive these features again in approximately 1 week. It's pretty easy to not get a strike. I will say, if your eyes are forward, you're looking at traffic, you're being attentive, and that camera doesn't catch you looking down or looking at a phone, I think you're good to go. However, I did get one strike that had nothing to do with that. I'll talk about that in a little bit. All right, back to the video.
Will it just self-drive from here? Like you can just put in the convention center?
Yeah, that's what we're gonna try.
And you're not gonna touch anything?
Well, you have to, but obviously I don't want to put us in danger. If there's like a sketchy situation, I'm gonna disengage it. But the goal is to get to the convention center, city driving without doing
touching
anything.
Yeah. Okay, I love this. I'm not nervous.
Dude, I'm horribly nervous.
That's it, you're not touching anything right now?
No, now I'm not. So I'm not doing the gas. I'm not.
But your hands have to be on it still.
It needs input, yeah.
But I want to be able to like sit here and text.
Then you're gonna die. Right now, it's in beta, okay?
Okay.
It's beta. But all of this, I'm not doing.
So navigating this here, I'm not
gonna do shit. We're gonna see what happens. There's a yield. It said, it kind of yielded.
It kind of yielded.
So that's all it. It accelerating like.
But how often do you have to put your hands on the wheel? Do your hands have to be just sitting on the wheel? Can you put one hand like on the bottom?
Yeah, there's sensors in here and it feels the torque.
Okay.
Like me pulling down on this, we got a stop sign coming up. It's switching. We don't know what it's looking at the pedestrian. It's looking at blockage. I disengaged it accidentally because it was. All right, so what happened here is we came up to a stop sign and a person started walking across the street even though it wasn't a crosswalk. And as they were walking out, the car saw them and tried to shift lanes, and that person was walking into the lane that they shifted into, so the car decided to dart back, and it got really confusing. And it's just so much easier to tap on the brake and disengage it than let it continue to be confused. I am headed to CES. This is day 3. And it's day 3 of using basically exclusively full self-driving. And I kind of wanted to share my thoughts on it. How do I put this into words? 1, it's absolutely incredible. 2, it's not perfect by any means. It does some really weird stuff. Some of the decisions it makes, you're like, whoa, this isn't right. And we'll get more into the details of what those situations were a little bit later. 3, the potential is incredible, astronomical. I don't know how to put it any other way. And the reason I say that is because it is so damn good. And it's still beta. It's still in its infancy, I want to say. Like, the amount of improvement, the ceiling for improvement is huge. I've been driving in downtown shitty Las Vegas traffic. I've been driving in the suburban area in Summerlin outside of Las Vegas. I've been driving on the highways. And this thing has really performed incredibly. And I thought city traffic was just going to be way too much. And I've learned that it's not. It's not at all. Right now, we are headed to the Las Vegas Convention Center for CES. I've got to go from the suburban area, take a few highways, and go to the convention center, which is downtown. And because it's CES, the traffic is 10 times worse than it would be on a normal day. And what I've learned is that this thing can pretty much navigate it with no problems. And where I see the major benefit is that this environment, trying to drive to the convention center, like right now it's doing its thing. It's going, full self-driving is going. Driving to the convention center is stressful as shit. and letting this take over the navigation, the auto steering, changing between lanes, distance, and stop and go traffic has eliminated a huge chunk of that stress. I said earlier that this thing would probably be really useful for highways and not the city. And I think I've almost flip-flopped that in a way. Still way better on the highway, but when it comes to city driving now, man, it just reduces so much stress. It takes you out of some incredibly stressful situations. I'm about to get on a highway, traffic is backed up, it's measured the distance just fine, it's slowed down. It was a smooth slowdown, it's now a smooth acceleration. Again, it's not perfect. Sometimes it does some things in a pretty jarring fashion. It makes some weird decisions on what lines it wants to take or how aggressive it kind of turns the wheel. But using this for the last 3 days in this environment has made my life easier. And I don't know if it's worth $200, but it's worth a lot. And taking David yesterday to the convention center, and we used FSD the whole way, we were blown away. U-turns, traffic, construction. There are big intersections where you're taking 4 or 5 lanes of traffic and intersecting it with like another 4 lanes and a 4 lane, it's like huge, crazy intersections. And it did it just fine. Where it runs into issues that I've seen is like when it can't see lines, like if you're going from like a 2-laner and maybe there's a median and the median separates, it can't see the lines initially and it starts like zigzagging. You just got to trust that it's going to pick up on the lane and then it stays there. This morning when I was coming back from the gym, it tried to turn right 1 turn too early, which was a little weird. I felt like it's starting to dart pretty hard and okay, disengage it really easy. So it does make some mistakes. Like right now it was going to change. It was going to change lanes, but a person sped up, came into my blind spot, and it was like, okay, I'm not changing lanes now. But it probably would. There you go. And now it's just waiting for the car to pass to give me enough room, and it's switched lanes, and we're good to go. Last night we went to a party for Insta360, a bunch of creators, and we stayed way longer than we thought. I was up at 4:50 to work out. I had maybe 5 hours of sleep. Then we stayed out until almost, I think it was 10:30 Vegas time, so that's like 11:30 my time. I was absolutely exhausted. We were both delirious. Put it in FSD, and it got us home without any of the, like, I don't think I could have navigated. I would have probably spent another 15, 20 minutes trying to get home because I would have missed a few turns. I'm not lying. Having this not just be in traffic, but also navigate you, and it keeps track of the turns and where you need to exit and get on and the streets and so on. That's where this thing is just, it's powerful. It makes driving not more fun, but far less stressful. And I think that is incredibly cool.
FSD, full self-driving from Tesla, is absolutely incredible, but it's not perfect by any means. It did some really weird things, and it's one reason why I think it's probably not worth it for you. Let me go over some of the things that happened. You know, originally I said it was going to be incredible on the highway and bad for the city. By the time I got back home to Salt Lake, I'd kind of flip-flopped that. In the city, if you give it a location, it is pretty incredible. It does some weird things, but I didn't have as many annoyances than I did with the highway. Driving down the highway, the sheer amount of notifications, buzzers, chimes, and warnings I got was insane. And I actually got 2 strikes that had nothing to do with the attentiveness camera, or at least it wasn't perfect. Let me explain. So there was a time where I got pitted between two diesels, and as this one was moving over, I wanted to accelerate and go around it because I was just getting stuck in a bad situation where somebody was like tailgating me. So I went to accelerate, and FSD has a speed limit of 85 set to it. I should have just disengaged this. I did not know it had a speed limit of 85, and because I pressed on the gas, it gave me a strike. So freaking dumb. So anyway, I got a strike with that. Then there was another time where I was just getting uncomfortable and I went to lean in my chair across the console and it gave me another strike for that. It was really frustrating driving down the highway. I felt like I had to be a robot and just stuck on the wheel and staring straight forward. So that was upsetting. Now, for the cost, $200 a month or $12,000. I don't think it's worth it. I really don't. I think if it was $50, it's a no-brainer all the way. I'm all for it. Like I used it this morning to take Henry to daycare and to go to the gym, and it just made it so easy. It like let my mind wander, not in a dangerous way, but there wasn't so many inputs. I'm not checking. I'm just like, my foot's next to the brake. If something goes weird, I just tap on the brake. If not, the car does everything for me. It was incredible. So for the money, I don't think it's worth it. The future is bright for Tesla's full self-driving. And it's only gonna get better because so many other car manufacturers like BYD, Rivian, they're all making their own versions of this software. And that competition is gonna force Tesla to get even better. I'm really excited for what the future holds in 2 or 3 years. Maybe then it'll be worth it. That's it. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked it, please let me know by hitting the like button and consider subscribing. We do a lot of fun things on this channel. If you've got any questions about full self-driving or autopilot, the semantics, I'm sure I'm gonna get a lot of hate comments because there's no such thing as full self-driving and they're gonna complain about autopilot. Anyway, if you've got comments, if you got questions, please put them down in the comments below. Thanks again for watching. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.